What is going on, everybody, at twitch.tv/HillKevin, Wrestling Review Society's Facebook page, YouTube page, Real Pro Wrestling's YouTube page, and wherever you are watching the show tonight, thank you for giving us a few moments of your time to sit back, learn a little bit more about an indie talent that you may not know about, and just talk about wrestling, guys. Is there a better way to spend a Thursday night? Guys, this will be the new start time for the War Room for the next couple of weeks. One of my kids is in soccer. His games are at 6:30, so that 7 o'clock start time just isn't going to cut it. So for the next couple of weeks, the start time for the War Room will be 8 o'clock. But with that being said, let's go and plug some sponsors and get our guest on here because he's got a great story to tell. And this is probably going to be unlike any other interview I've had, just because he's such an open book and he doesn't really give a shit about your feelings. So it's going to be a great time. But before I bring him on, just want to give a shout out to all of our amazing sponsors, first of which being thecoldestwater.com. Guys, you can see them up here on the display shelf. Thecoldestwater.com makes some of the best water bottles I've ever had in my entire life. I have them, my mom has them, my wife has them, and now with their new release of Pet Bowl lines, even my dog has them. So if you want to get your hands on any of their amazing products like their water bottles, pet bowls, coffee, t-shirts, whatever you want, make sure you go to thecoldestwater.com and use promo code WRESTLING to save 10% at checkout. I know the sign right there says Russo. That's for another podcast. But for this one, it is promo code WRESTLING to save 10%. With that being said, guys, thefirstwarrior.com. Firstwarrior.com is a patriotic clothing company. They have hats and t-shirts available, and they're working each and every day to make new garments like shorts and sweatpants. If you want to get your hands on their products, make sure you go to thefirstwarrior.com. First is spelled with a 1, not an I. And use promo code WRS to save 10% at checkout. So you're going to use promo code WRESTLING at the Coldest Water. You're going to use promo code WRS at the First Warrior, and you're going to save money all the way around. Guys, also A-Rock Designs for all the great cups she makes us and all those cool wrestling cups you see floating around in the Facebook pages and Instagram pages and all that other good stuff. Make sure you go to A-Rock Designs on Facebook or arockdesigns.com and place your orders today. Last and final sponsor, guys, storefrontier.com/Wrestling Review Society for all of our amazing merch. All of these links will be available in the description. So just hit that description. All the links and promo codes will be available. With that being said, I don't want to waste any more time. I just want to get my guest on here. I want to, guys, I'm not even sure where this one's going to go. We can start at plan A and we're going to end all the way up in bumfuck nowhere. With that being said, one of the absolute most entertaining wrestlers I have ever had the pleasure to meet in my time with Real Pro Wrestling, working as their ring announcer and commentator, and somebody he's kind of grown on me a little bit. I even got to talk shit to him last show. Ladies and gentlemen, joining me at this time, Johny Ruddo. Johnny, what's up, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, Matt? Thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for making the time, man. I know you're pretty busy. You're locked up in a hotel room right now doing some business, but still made time for the little guys.
Shit, I'm a little guy. And if you get on my level, then you backtrack and you practicing. I don't get that.
No, man. I knew when I entered. So I actually said this to you in the ring and got a little laugh out of you. The last Real Pro. Well, the first time I saw you at Real Pro, I knew I wanted to have you on the show. I knew I wanted to introduce you to my viewers and stuff like that because I knew they were just going to take to you and the type of personality you have. But you had came to the ring, and as I'm introducing the next person, I kind of sideways tell you, you got the best looking ring gear out of anybody I've seen. And you're trying to keep this stone face. You're just like, oh, thanks, man. And you're trying to keep like this stone face, and I got you to break in the ring. Highlight of my night. I love
great.
getting guys like you and Zach to break in the middle of the ring.
Oh, yeah. That right there, it's like that. A lot of people, if you're worth anything, then you put a lot into your ring gear. You put a lot under your persona. So to just have somebody just look and just be like, man, like your gear's really good. Like, I mean, you just can't help it.
Dude, I think out of all, first off, we got Zach Monstar joining us, says, my brother's on the screen. We got avid viewers of the show, Royal Blue Viking, always a supporter, Heel Kevin fan page, Face Dustin, a moderator here at twitch.tv/Heel Kevin, David Copy, and the rest of the gang just hanging out, ready to talk about some wrestling. But yeah, man, my time working for Zach and Real Pro, and even going to some of the other shows like Riot and ARW, you and Zach have Zach and Ryzen have some of the best ring gear I've ever seen. It's absolutely phenomenal. But so I gotta ask, man, are you originally from Vegas?
No, actually, surprisingly, I'm originally, and I was born in Salem, Mass.
Okay.
That my father was in the military, and so apparently my mother had to drop me somewhere, and we were up there visiting her family. I would certainly assume, and so dropped me. We spent about 8 years there, and then moved back down to Florida when my father got out of the military, and was
What branch
basically
of the
raised
military?
Army.
Same. Same.
It was so bad that like when you join the Army, that you get a code. You get like a 4-digit code or something like that, and his code was "fuck the Army forever." I'm like, oh shit.
So we used to have this running joke in my unit when I was in the Army. You know how like on the uniform you have like your last name and then you have the U.S. Army right here?
Yep.
We always used to say U.S. Army was an acronym for Uncle Sam ass raped me yesterday, and then backwards it's yes, my retarded ass signed up.
Yeah, that is the truest thing on the planet.
Yeah, man.
I tip my hat off to anybody who served, because I ain't doing it. I can't do it. I couldn't do it because I got in trouble when I was younger. But so I definitely have respect for people that do.
So, well, first off, thank you for that. But you know, growing up an Army brat, growing up a military brat, I imagine you moved around a lot. Where's some of the more give me the pros and cons of the places you've been, the places you've enjoyed, and the places that you just couldn't wait to get out of.
The military base that was in Massachusetts was really, really cool. That was cool. And that they let my father and the family live off base.
Mm-hmm.
Then we came back down to Florida. We got established. I actually was really fortunate. I didn't have to move around a heck of a whole lot. I got to go to Georgia to
Hey, that's where this
place
guy
over
is.
there. And that's a different way of life, man. And it's like
It's a lot slower of a pace.
it really truly is. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on there, and I don't know what they're putting in the water, but I do know that when you cross that Florida-Georgia line, it's like time staying still.
Yeah. Dude, every time I come down for Real Pro Wrestling or anything, as soon as we cross that line, when we see the sign that says "Welcome to Florida," it's like we could be in Georgia and there not be another car on the road. The second you cross into Florida, it's bumper to bumper, stopped in the middle of the highway traffic. Real quick, we got a comment coming in from the comment section. My buddy Raul always watching the show, always a big supporter. Says, "Good afternoon, Kevin and Johnny. Johnny, best of luck to you in the wrestling business."
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That's my kind of you.
And so, yeah, man, I love being in Georgia. It truly is a much slower pace of living.
Oh, yeah.
I moved around a lot in the military, and I always knew this is where I wanted to come back to. But you know, growing up, moving around everywhere. We're going to get to that in just a second. But when did you discover pro wrestling? And so there's a difference from discovering pro wrestling and actually committing to wanting to be a pro wrestler. So when did you discover it? When did it start to grow on you? And when did you decide this is what I'm doing? Because I don't want to earn a decent living.
When we were down in Sarasota when I was about 3 on vacation, my dad was really big into, hey, you know, I want to do things with the kid. You know, I want to try to be a father. Kudos to him. And he took me to Robards, and I got to see my first match. I saw the whole event, the main event. I still remember that the main event was Stan Hansen and Lex Luger in a steel cage. It was
The hell of a first match.
Yeah, like that was like that the main event, and it's like that you don't have too many things that stick out, but it's like that you always remember like the first match that really had an impact on you.
That's the equivalent of your dad going, "Johnny, I'm going to teach you how to drive. Put the pedal to the floor."
That's pretty much what he did, only I learned how to drive a stick shift. So after dropping 2 clutches, well, then I finally got it. And like after that, it was like everybody fed into it. Like that, they fed into it hook, line, and sinker. Everybody on my dad's side, because like that, my dad came from a real like traditional Italian family. I mean, we're talking like 5 brothers. They're all married. They all popped out 5 or 6 kids a pop. And
big
half
12-course meals.
Yeah, and I don't see any of them now, which that's kind of a delight. But
I'm right there with you. I communicate with very little of my family.
But I mean, I still remember getting like all like the old punch buddies with like the Ultimate Warrior and Macho Man, and I knew right away that wrestling was going to be good because like I started gravitating towards obviously people like Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, but it wasn't until like I started like listening to my uncle talk about like the old days of like Gordon Soley and Dusty Rhodes, Nick Bockwinkel, shit like that.
Yes, the
Like,
glory days.
yeah, like that's what really kind of took me on that ride, and I come to appreciate it so much more. Like when I first got into wrestling, because by the time I got into wrestling and decided that's what I wanted to do, like WWE or whatever it was at the time, like none of those people were my favorite wrestlers. Like the Great Muta was my favorite wrestler.
There we go.
Masawa, Yuji Nagata, freaking Chono, fucking watching 0-1, Michinoku
Dude, that
Pro.
explains so much about your moveset. I was going to ask you about that. I was going to ask you how you adopted your moveset because, you're not the smallest guy in the world. I mean, you're not the biggest guy by any means either, but for you to do some of the things you do, it really took me back to some of those Muta matches and some of those old school matches that you just don't see anymore. And I'm telling you, man, that was like right at the top of my list of questions is how you adopted your moveset. That's amazing.
I learned real quick that less is more. If I can get...
You heard that, Zach? You don't have to do 30 baby cutters and 90 super kicks in one match, Zach.
My goal is to have everybody on the edge of their seat and be able to work a freaking leg for 5 minutes and just eating right there.
Pick a body part and tell a story.
Yeah. I have done just about it all as far as gimmicks go. That man said I feel attacked. Hell no. I remember seeing a young Zach Monstar. God, that was fucking atrocious. Like
as opposed to when?
No, trust me. Like Zach has come leaps and bounds.
Yeah, I bust his balls, but I'll put his work up against anybody.
That motherfucker caught a lot of shit, and much to his credit, he never buckled. He didn't. Everybody from day one has said, "Why are you working like a little guy?" That's like, because I want to, and he stuck to it. And I tip my cap off to anybody who doesn't let like the quote unquote like the veterans, or as I like to call them, that's the real pissed off fucks who've never done anything, and they just want to tear people down because they hate their fucking life.
You're not holding back, are you, Johnny?
Fuck no, man. I mean, freaking, I love Zach to death because of his, just moving forward. And he was actually the one who talked me into changing my gimmick, like the first go around, because I did Deacon Star for years, and I was just that real sneaky, like whiny, fast talker, but always managed to get the win type of guy. And Zach's like let's do something a little bit more dark. I'm like, all right, so what you got? He goes, let's do Madhouse. And so that was that. I mean, that's always been Zach's thing. So he called up a friend of his, and they came to the show, and they were doing like prosthetic makeup on me, like zombie and freaking like bite marks and all that other shit. And I had the best time.
So I want to rewind just a little bit, and then we'll move on with what you just said. But, you talk about how Zach got a lot of flack for being, Zach's just as tall as I am. We both stand 6'5", and he works like a cruiserweight. He really does. Baby cutters, enziguri, stuff like that. and I just brought up your moveset. Did you ever receive any blowback or any negative criticism because of the way you choose to work?
I never got criticized for the way I worked. I always got criticized for where I chose to work. There for a good 5 years, I was known as the king of the shit shows. Which, I'm sorry, but if a shit show is drawing more than the non-shit shows, well, somebody will really have to point out which one's the shit show then. Just my opinion. But, yeah, because I was like the world champion of like 4 promotions at once for NEW, Florida Pro.
Yeah, you've held some titles.
Yeah, like freaking driving 6 hours in one day, going 3.5 over to Port St. Lucie for CWE when I was the tag team champions with Preston, and driving back and not getting home till 5 a.m. because we all just run amok.
And so let me ask you about that, because it's an experience that not a lot of people get to feel.
Sure.
And the wrestling haters and those kind of people are like, oh, it's all fake anyway. Da, da, da. First off, wrestling ain't fake. People are fake. Wrestling is real. I think everybody watching this show could agree. It might be scripted, it might be predetermined, but you tell somebody who's had 4 back surgeries that wrestling is fake. Anyway, I'll get off my high horse. When you're working for a company and you're putting in the hours, you're putting the miles on your car, you're busting your ass, working for little to no money. Sometimes a hot dog and a handshake is all you get, and then the promoter or the owner comes up to you and goes, "We're putting the title on you." Now, yeah, the promoter or the booker, the promoter, whoever says, "Yeah, we're putting the title on you," but what they're really saying is, "You're the guy we trust. You're the guy we want to represent our company. You're the guy that's going to lead us." What does that feel like, man, for somebody to pretty much reaffirm everything you think about yourself, for you to finally hit that moment where you're like, okay, people finally see what I see in myself all the time? What's the feeling like when you get your first, heavyweight title?
It's truly surreal. And for anybody to say that they want a title and they just looked at it as whatever, that they're full of shit. They're all full of shit. You can't help but feel like you're doing something right. You may not be making all the right moves, but you're not making all the wrong ones either. And it's like that. It's a really cool feeling, like especially when you come out and everybody just wants a piece of your time. Like even if it's for like 3 minutes, because when Zach and I do like Fighting for a Cure, like we run that fucking show, and anybody who says otherwise, they're on drugs. Like we run that, and like for afterwards, like everybody just wants to hang out with us, and that's the coolest feeling. It is like everybody wants to be the best, or they at least want people to say, that dude can work. He can make so-and-so look amazing. Like, that's what it's about. But it's cool.
I went to this last Riot Pro show, and a lot of my viewers are very familiar with that show. I'm sure you've seen at the end of the night, me and JD might have had a little heat between each other. But anyway, getting back to my original question, I've watched you wrestle about 3 times before that, and I always knew you were one of the guys, like one of the top guys in the locker room. You knew what you were doing. Your head was on straight. But I got to tell you, and I was telling this to Zach too, that Riot show,
brutal.
Really, really, yeah, it was. And you got dropped on your head, but it really showed me the ring general side of you, able to command a ring, make sure everybody stayed safe. And I respect the shit out of that, because I specifically remember sitting there watching the match, and there was a move that was about to be absolutely horrible for everybody involved, and just the way you shifted your body, the way you alternated the move kept everybody safe and stopped something very bad from happening. And that's not something that everybody's born with. It's not something that you can teach. You can't teach that kind of eye for someone to look at it and be like, this is going to end badly, how can I fix it? So how long did it take you to kind of hone that skill where you're able to go in there and just kind of see the way things are going to play out before they actually do? Because I've been to plenty of wrestling shows, and not a lot of people can do that.
For anybody who watched that Riot match, I apologize. And for those
should have kicked him in the doodle.
That's the true story. It was literally like I had worked with Ramos before. I had worked with Vertigo, very, very very limited interaction. Mm-hmm. And some people are just heavy-handed, and some people are just like, they get it in their mind that how it is on TV is how it works, and there's so much more to it. And like it literally becomes second nature after you've been doing it for long enough that you can kind of like assess the situation and see like where things are going to go south or where they could go south. And if you're the one who you want to jump in front of that bullet, more power to you. It's just, I didn't want anything really, really bad to happen. And yeah, I should have taken the advice of Jethro and JD and just chilled out after that. But it was like, I don't have that gear And that's why, like, I was pissed as shit because I made that match look like shit because I didn't take 2 seconds to think about the match. I cared more about making somebody else look good as opposed to making the match as a whole look good.
Yeah, but you can't put that all on yourself either, and you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I know.
There was a funny smell in the air that night, and we all know who was doing it. And that's not on you.
No, I know.
So cut yourself a little bit of a break.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But so when you get to Florida, you know, like you said, your dad got out of the military, and you guys set up camp down in Florida. Where'd you find your first wrestling school or promotion? Where did you go for your first introduction to Florida wrestling? Because Florida wrestling is unlike any, like, in my opinion, you've got Florida wrestling, you've got New Jersey wrestling, and then there's everything else.
Very fair. That's a very fair statement.
So how did you make your way into the Florida wrestling scene?
My first wrestling experience, I got hooked up with a guy who was Buzz Sawyer's brother, Brett Wayne Sawyer. And just like his brother.
Absolutely, we acknowledge Con, and it's Andy. Thanks for watching the show.
Thank you, Andy. And so he drove me to this place that was called Joe Bob's Sports Bar. And it was in Zephyr Hills, and it's just as podunk as it sounds. And he's just like, all right, so this is going to be your introduction into wrestling. You're going to give me X amount of money, and I'm going to teach you what I know. My brother's Brett Sawyer, you know, and he trained The Undertaker and or Buzz Sawyer, and he trained The Undertaker and all this other stuff. And so I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And like he had me help load in the ring, and then about 10 minutes to showtime, he's like, I don't have a ref. I need you to go to Sports Authority, because back then Sports Authority was open. And he said, go buy a ref shirt. You're reffing tonight. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck to do.
No problem, Andy. Thanks for watching the show.
And he's like, it's just like on TV. You're fine, okay? You count 1, 2, 3, you're fine. I said, oh, okay. And I distinctly remember him telling everybody, he's like, hey, this kid doesn't know much. He's green as shit. All right, so kind of take it easy on there. First match, I fucked up. The very first match.
What'd you do?
I counted a 3 that wasn't supposed to be a 3. And the dude was pissed. Like the dude, he was one of the York brothers. I think it was Donnie York. And he's like, you motherfucker, you knew the fucking finish. I said, you didn't kick out. What the fuck you want me to do? It doesn't work like that.
The very first win I ever got in an independent scene happened that exact same way. I did just a basic ass leg drop, and the guy was supposed to kick out, and he didn't. So I got my first win because some guy just forgot to kick out.
Yeah, I mean, at that show, I got my ass beat every fucking match. I took a chair shot the hard way to the forehead.
Ooh.
Yeah. And, yeah, it was definitely something that will always stick right in my head. That's for sure.
A viewer of the show, Aaron English, says, been impressed with Johnny's wrestling since seeing him for the first time at the Black Friday weekend show and Zach hosted at the Harley dealership by my house.
Oh, okay. Thanks. My man.
Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar versus Adam Cole ladder match for the... Okay. Guys, I understand everybody here's wrestling fans. We have other shows where we talk about, the current state of wrestling. This is more about Johnny and getting his story out. So thank you for watching the show. I truly do appreciate it. So yeah, just sit back and learn something about a new wrestler that you may not have known. But anyway, so how long were you reffing before you debuted?
I refereed 2 times, and that went south real quick. So I got hooked up with Mondo and Ray Ayala, who used to do some stuff for WCW. And they had their little ordeal because they were all Malenko boys. So that's kind of where my basis came from. And so between that, I started going to a secondary place, to kind of become well-rounded over at Bill Lindsay, who is Roderick Strong's dad, for those of you who don't know.
Mhm.
And that was before the great blow up, back when Roderick still had a mask on. And it was wild. Like, it was really like two different worlds, because one was real technical heavy, and they had like a checklist, like a whole checklist, and it had freaking tiger suplex, dragon suplex. I'm like really? You guys? He goes, yeah. And it doesn't count unless you can do and take. And I'm like, well, fuck me. And these are big boys. These are like 350-pound plus boys, and I'm doing like sunset flips over them.
So let me ask you this, because anytime I hear that somebody was a referee before they actually debuted, I always like to get this question out. Do you feel like being a referee before you actually started wrestling helped with your ring psychology, your ring awareness, and stuff like that? Do you feel like it attributed to making you a better wrestler? And do you think other people should be a ref before they wrestle?
Yes, absolutely. That's not even a question. If you value the business, you should definitely be a referee before you step foot into the ring. And people need to understand that referees have it's not just counting three. Like, the referee helps get that match over, because while the boys are doing their thing, who the fuck do you think is keeping an eye on the crowd? If the crowd looks like they're absolute shit and they could give two flying fucks what's going on in the ring, that's the man who caused the audible. It's very important.
Yeah, I think it always goes, if nothing else, it helps you with your timing.
Oh, I agree.
It helps your internal clock. Like, if you agree that backstage, okay, we're going out for 15 minutes. If you've spent any time as a ref, you kind of get that internal compass, that internal clock of just how long that is. And it's a really long time. Like, it's not a long time for us to sit here and talk. We've already been talking for about 28 minutes, but when you're in the ring going, 15 minutes feels like a week.
Yeah, it does.
So we've kind of been hinting at him. I don't want to make this show about Zach too much, but he does play a big part in your story.
Sure.
So I do have to ask this: how long before you got linked up with Zach, and what brought you over to Real Pro Wrestling?
Before I first met Zach, I had a promotion called Omega Pro Wrestling.
You ran your own promotion?
Yeah, very, very, very stupid on my part, because I got married, another dumb mistake, and then we spent my honeymoon grabbing the ring, doing the shit. That ended up going by the wayside. I actually ended up going to rehab, and when I got out of rehab, my buddy Jason was like, "Hey, you need to come check out these kids." So I said, "All right." So I go and I freaking go down there, and it's about as makeshift ring as it gets. Like, that shit was built like that was a Frankenstein fucking ring. A Frankenstein ring. Like, that shit had all sorts of widgets and all sorts of nonsense.
Makes for a great bump, doesn't it?
That makes for a real stiff ass bump. Fuck that. and freaking this like little like Honda Civic comes rolling on up, and this fucking kid who looks like he just stepped out of a fucking ICP concert comes walking on up.
He still looks like that, Johnny.
And the first words out of my mouth is, "When the fuck did we start getting Jeff Hardy fans here in the fucking ring?" And it was like...
Was that before or after you saw the tattoo?
No. Yeah, like that. I didn't know anything about like the tattoo stuff until like much later. But it's like, this kid looked like the dude from Good Charlotte, but he looked like he belonged with a freaking bottle of Faygo and a painted up face looking like something from the Mothman Prophecies. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And like, the fucking kid was fearless as shit. And it wasn't until I went down and actually like spent a day with him. It was just before like that. Before Real, there was something called NEW in Fort Myers. And
Zach's triggered.
And like, when I tell people that Zach's damn near like Fort Myers royalty. Like, I'm not bullshitting.
No, I've seen it. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I get treated a certain way because I'm with him.
Yeah, I didn't believe it, but Zach was the embodiment of what every fucking green kid who's got 5 minutes in the fucking business should be. Like, that kid was telling everybody, "Hey, I got a show tonight. Come out, come out, come out, come out, come out." Like, and when they put the belt on him, like, it just turned it up to 12 because everybody started showing up. And when NEW folded, like, that was when I got held up with work for for a few years, which I was running a strip club that demanded all my time.
Hell yeah.
No.
Johnny's the man.
I will trade anybody. I would rather dig ditches than run a fucking strip club. You fucking feel like you got a cold sore coming the minute you walk through the fucking door. It's bad. But yeah, that, and freaking Zach's like, "Hey, I started my own promotion." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." And dude starts sending me pictures, and I'm like, "This motherfucker." Huh, the more you know. And yeah, I mean, he's done great. He's really done great for himself.
Dominic, we were sitting down talking to Johny Ruddo, an independent wrestler from Florida, who has been absolutely ripping through the promotions. And like I said in the beginning,
take a second look at his picture because I thought the guy had a freaking picture of Anthony Bourdain. I'm like, is that Anthony Bourdain? Like, oh man, like, that's a cool pic.
But we're sitting down talking to Johny Ruddo. Thanks for watching the show, man. I'm super glad that you're here. Thanks for being here. Thanks for giving us a few minutes of your time tonight. But so, talk to me about the House of Wolves and how that became a thing.
Literally, it was.
For the people who don't know, explain to them what the House of Wolves is and how it started.
That the House of Wolves is basically, I mean, to put it in terms that everybody would easily be able to understand, yeah, it was basically the Click Light. That's what I call it, all right? Yeah, it was just 4 guys who spent all their time talking about wrestling, had that brotherhood mentality, and they're like, "Hey, we're going to do the House of Wolves. Johnny, you want in on it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And it was always something that I enjoyed doing, and nobody took it serious. I didn't take it seriously. None of us did because we were just having that much fun.
And now you guys have your own podcast.
That was actually just something that we decided to do, kind of fuck it off. I had done radio for years, and I first started doing a show called A Villain's Gospel, and we were doing live remotes at a place called Munchies in Sarasota, and Zach came out, and I freaking, the first thing I do is the minute that we go to break in front of everybody, I freaking bring Zach on and stuff, and I said, "Here, man, freaking grab a set of headphones and let's have some fun." And we've always had the gift of gab, and keeping it entertaining is super easy. So we just have some fun when we can.
So, to this point, how long have you been wrestling?
About 13 years.
Yeah, that's about almost half my life.
Well, fuck me.
To this point, who have been some of the more inspirational people that you've wrestled? And I'm not necessarily talking like big names or anything like that. I mean, if it is a big name, great. But if not, who gives a shit? Who are some of the people that really influenced you and that really taught you the most on your journey through pro wrestling?
My first tag partner, Kennedy Kendrick. He was a product of Lance Storm.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, is there any better?
Yeah, no. And the freaking kid was ultra plugged into the freaking Hart Dynasty, still is. And we would just take these trips up and down.
Aaron English says I would have loved the radio shows.
Yeah, it's true. You would have. But Kendrick really taught me like that the importance of pacing and making everything be the most impactful thing possible. He was definitely one when we were doing a touch of class up in Kentucky with me, Kendrick, and Danny Basham. That was a lot of fun. Like, I learned a lot from Basham. That was just just a person who loved the business. Like, he got me all my bookings up there. A few people down here, freaking Hound Dog's always fun to work with. I can learn something from everybody.
Whether it's something you want to be or something you hope you never emulate.
Bingo.
And that's the biggest thing I tell people, man, is that as long as you learn something, it doesn't necessarily have to be a good thing. If you go into a situation and you learn something that, let's just say somebody does something that you hope you never do. You've learned that, okay, I hope I never do that. As long as you learn something from it, nothing is a waste of time. So even if you go out there and have the most trash match you could ever possibly have, if you learn something like, okay, this is something I hope I never do again, you've turned it to a situation where at least you've learned something from it. But we have a lot of people in the chat that this is their first time seeing you or their first time hearing your story or anything about you.
Right.
If they were to ask you, what's one Johny Ruddo match that we should go watch? What's something that would make us a fan of Johny Ruddo? What would that match be?
Without question, the second time that I wrestled Zach, and
we can't quit talking about this guy, can we?
The only other match was when I had my Suncoast title defense against a guy named the American Superstar. It was a great fucking angle. Like, I gypped him out of the fucking title. I rolled out from under the ring. I clubbed his leg with a freaking crowbar. And when his son came in to try to make the save, I grabbed his kid and handcuffed him to the freaking ropes, started whipping him with his own belt. Like, that was like good shit. Seeing how Zach wasn't an option. So I had to pick something else.
No, I don't have a problem talking about him. I like busting his balls. And, it really goes to what you said about, him being Fort Myers royalty. Anytime I interview anybody from Florida, they've got a story or two about Zach. But
I don't know if that's a good thing.
Getting outside of wrestling, what are some of your other passions and things that you enjoy other than wrestling?
I love designing. I love coming up with graphics for shirts, promotional pieces, reading. I got hella fucking bored when I was doing the strip club thing, and all these people were trying to do all this Photoshop stuff, and I was trying to plan events, and nobody could do anything that I wanted done. So finally somebody said, here's Photoshop. You learn it. Ruined a really good relationship out of it, but God, it was so worth it. Made so much money off that damn thing.
So what are some of the things that you design, like T-shirts, hats?
Yep.
Like what exactly do you – is that what you do now for a living?
It is. I work for a place called Aquarius Graphics in Sarasota. I also have 2 clothing lines. One's called Truly Evil, and that's basically taking the idea of Spencer's meets Hot Topic, but coming up with colors that they would never think of using, and just coming up with like new and inventive ways, because they all order out of the same basic bitch catalog, so they're all garbage. So I like to think of stuff to put it on out there, and Screamer is something that's primarily like for ladies, which is why I've got a female promoting it. I just do all the design work for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that. Other than that, I just read a lot. It's sad how much I read.
What do you like to read?
I like history documentaries. And
of course. I should have already known the answer to that question.
I was never into history until my brother gave me the autobiography of JFK. And I was like, what an interesting read.
I shouldn't have even had to ask that question, but Johny, you've been involved with pro wrestling for a while. Like you've been around the business, like you said, 13 years. One of the things that we typically get on this show are people waiting to go to wrestling school, people wanting to get into the world of pro wrestling, or even guys looking to be referees in the world of pro wrestling. What's some advice you would give a young aspiring pro wrestler who's looking to break into the business?
Shut the fuck up and listen. If they're good, then they're going to be able to teach you in a way that just makes sense, and you'll be able to understand it. You'll be able to grasp it, and you'll be able to apply that knowledge to other things. Pay your dues. Shut the fuck up. Pay your dues. Do your thing. Help flyer. If you're working for promotions that don't have promotional material for you to hand out, then that's going to show you the level that
everybody's got one of these.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that hard to promote on social media, but we have a comment.
It's garbage.
You kind of have to have it, though, in the world that we live in now. Like, you kind of have to have social media, especially in pro wrestling. But we'll get into that in just a second. We have a comment coming in from somebody that we both know and both know and love. I guess we could say that. But it says my favorite match was Johny versus Draven Frost double force choke.
That's awesome.
Care to enlighten us on this match?
We got so fucking pissed because we all tried to turn heel at the same time, and it just wasn't working. So Jordan was like, well, I'm gonna have you two wrestle, and Joey and I have wrestled so freaking much. Like, I package pile driver his wife, who's not trained, knows nothing, but just like, yeah, sure, whatever. And so we did every hokey spot you can possibly think of. Like, Joey hit me with the kick stunner thing. He came in for the clothesline. I hooked him for the rock bottom. And that we're just like, all right, so for the finish, we're just going to grab each other by the throat. And then we're going to do like the force choke slam. And we're like halfway across the ring from each other. And we just up and down. And freaking Jason's on the outside like, I don't even know what to do with this. Like, I've got nothing. He's sitting there like begging to say, what the fuck is any of this? What are you all doing?
So I guess that leads me to this question. You know, you say that you guys had wrestled each other so many times.
Oh yeah.
Do you feel that it benefits or harms the worker by working the same person over and over and over?
It depends. If the person they're working is shit, then obviously it's going to hinder them. I don't look at it like that. I look at it as like I've gotten to work somebody who I'm extremely close with. I haven't gotten to work with the other one, the one who we're not going to talk about anymore. I have only gotten to work with him twice out of all 13 years, and that was good times. And it means a lot when you can go in there and really do what the business was designed to do, and that's suspend disbelief. And really go in there and give it your all with somebody you know has got your back. No, they're going to protect you, and they're not going to let anything happen to you, and vice versa. Like, that's when wrestling is its true, most magical moments, when you can just do that sort of thing.
No, I definitely I think there's, like you said, I think there's both sides to it. I always kind of thought that it would hinder somebody because you're not getting, more reps. You're facing the same person instead of getting out there and trying your luck with other people. But like you said, when you're wrestling somebody that you trust, when you're wrestling somebody that you know has your back, it kind of gives you that ability to try new things, and almost like almost like a training session, because you're trying things that you wouldn't normally try. Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah, that's absolutely fair to say. I mean, that anybody who's a part of the wrestling business got it because they went to a match. They saw a match, and everybody started out like that the same exact way. They're like, I love that. I want to be a part of wrestling. And they would go out with their friends when they're young, growing up, and they're just beating the holy shit out of each other in the side yard, in the backyard, and stuff like that. And then eventually, like, it progresses. And when you're able to have that level of relax, like, it's like freaking like magic happens. Like, you can do cool stuff, and you can take these people on a ride. And that's what I think that they really need right now, especially now more so than ever. Like, people want to break away from reality, and wrestling's a great pathway for that.
No, it definitely is. And I just want to take a quick chance to give a huge shout out to our good friend on Twitch known as Wrestling Pops, giving us a raid, bringing us new members, new audience. Pops, thank you so much. Pops is a 40-year wrestling fan, and he's always checking out the guys that are on this show. I know he's watched a couple of your matches, and he just loves supporting independent wrestling. Wrestling Pops is the epitome of what you want a wrestling fan to be. So big thank you to Pops for the raid and bringing in the new viewers. But with that, what's up?
I said I like it.
With that being said, I want to ask you this question, and I feel like you're going to have a lot of fun with this one, but you kind of hinted at it with your last answer. As a 13-year vet, I mean, you probably know what you're talking about. You probably have a good idea, or at least you think you do. So with that being said, and given your last answer, what do you think is missing, or what do you think is wrong with pro wrestling today? Why do you think pro wrestling isn't hitting today like it did back when we were growing up and we were fans of it and watching the Dusties and the Steamboats and the Flairs and stuff like that? What, in your opinion, as somebody on the inside, what is missing, or what is pro wrestling lacking today?
They don't incorporate enough of what worked in the old, back in the old times. And like the wrestling fan has almost become desensitized. Like, I mean, and we hate to keep going to Zach, but we have to. Zach had to get run over by a car for people to give a shit. That's insane. Like, is that where we've come? It's like back in the day, like
we got guys like Techno fucking Destructo in the middle of a ring.
Yeah, and when everybody goes for the well and everybody tries to bring in, the freaking girlfriend, or they want to try to make some type of reality-based storyline and stuff like that, eventually people are like, I've seen it. But people need to peel back a little bit. They need to really look at what worked back in the days, of even in shit like World Class Championship Wrestling, man, with like Iceman King Parsons and shit like that. Like,
you're speaking my language, Johnny.
Like, we will never see another. We will probably never see like another Fabulous Freebirds. Like the Freebirds, like when you compare the wrestling to then to now, it's very, very different. But the storytelling is they would work a 20-minute Broadway and do nothing. Nothing. I saw Clash of the Champions where the Smothers Brothers beat the Freebirds with a freaking sunset flip, for God's sakes. It was in stereo, and that's what made it cool. And everybody's like, oh, my God.
That's one of the things that I personally think is wrong with pro wrestling today is finishers are no longer finishers. And what used to be finishers, like back in the day, DDT shaved years off your life. Now you're taking 7 of them and kicking out at 1.
Facts. Like, so many facts.
Like, we all know that wrestling is nothing more than a suspension of your belief, but there are just certain things that I can't suspend my belief enough for. And it's like you said, wrestling has gotten so far away from the glory days. But, I'm a believer in we are a victim of whatever generation we became a fan in. So if you became a fan in this generation, this is all you know.
Right. But it is funny because, like, the universalities have almost stayed the same. Like, if you notice, like, nobody really does a pile driver. And if they do a package pile driver because that's the safest.
Yeah.
It's like everybody kind of stays the fuck away from that. And they're like, okay, that one can hurt. So we're going to stay the fuck away from that one.
Wrestling Bird says Von Erichs versus Freebirds. God. I mean, the man knows his wrestling. He's a great freaking conversation to have. But I completely lost where I was about to go. I had a great question lined, or what I thought was a great question lined up, and Pops just completely threw me off because now all I can picture is that match.
Gentleman, Chris Adams.
That's what I was going to get at. We were talking about social media earlier, and back in the day, we were talking about the different territories. Back in the day, you can work a match in New Jersey, come down here and work the same match because these people down here have never seen it and it's new. But now with social media, what you see one place, you could never do it again. And I think that also has a big problem with pro wrestling today is you do something one time and now it's everywhere.
Well, and that's the idiocracy of professional wrestling right now. If I go to a play, that performance is going to be the same fucking performance if I see it one time or 1,000 times. If I look up Miss Saigon on YouTube, and I watch it. When I see it live, I know what the next spot is. I know about the helicopter at the end, but it doesn't matter because I get to see it, and it's different. It's different when you get to see it live.
It's the experience of it, the atmosphere.
I bet you, I will bet anybody any amount of money, if somebody stuck to their guns and they did the same damn match across the states, nobody would criticize it any more than the next because they would be like, I got to see it. I got to see it live. It's better than what you can't imagine what it's like in person. Man, fuck YouTube, fuck Vimo or whatever the hell it is. It's different when you're there, and it's a different atmosphere.
So, you personally think that the fans and I'm right there with you, but the fans and the bookers, the promoters, the workers put too much power or put too much stress too much about social media and what they see on YouTube and stuff like that. When in reality, they should just calm the fuck down and do what works.
Calm the fuck down. Don't get away from what got you to the dance, what got everybody to the dance. And what got people to the dance wasn't, hey, let me invite everybody to my fucking show. It's, hey, here's a flyer. Hey, how's it going? I'm Johnny. Hey, man, nice to meet you. I'd love for you to come down. It's that connection, man. That freaking connection, because at the end of the day, that's what we're all going to do anyway. So why not build that rapport with your community? Community is what will support you. The fans watching on YouTube, although we love them, if they're not coming out to pay for a ticket, then they're just watching. Like, invest in your community, and the community will invest back into you, and that's just been proven.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's nothing wrong with people that watch on YouTube, but you definitely want to take care of the ones who are going to buy the ticket because they're paying the boys, they're paying the rental fees, they're keeping it alive.
Yeah.
And so, Johnny, we kind of hit at this earlier in the show, and we got a comment from Pops coming up when we started talking about him. Says that he just watched your guys' podcast from last night with Zach and the boys, and he said it's great stuff. So let's talk about that, shall we? The Not So Sweet Life is what it's called. You guys did your first episode last night, and I got to tell you, man, I got to get on a show with T. I got to get on a show with this man. Johnny, I love you to death.
Ready.
And Zach is, in every sense of the word, a brother of mine, family to me. My kids call him Uncle Zach. Love you guys to death. But I got to get on a show with T. Talk to us about how this show started, how you guys came up with the cast. I believe you all were part of the same team at one point. Yeah. But just tell us everything about the Not So Sweet Life, how it started, where you can find it, whose idea was it. Just, dude, the floor is yours. Open mic, uninterrupted. Tell us about the Not So Sweet Life podcast.
Let me plug my phone in because I just got the 5% mark, and that's not going to be good.
Yeah, I remember my first live stream, Johnny.
Yeah, I mean, most of us do. All right, so you can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so basically, when I was working at the strip club, this was right when they started doing all of like that, like the Facebook Lives, and so I just started like doing videos. And STLR reached out to me, which was a company in Sarasota called Sky's the Limit Radio, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to do a show?" So I said, "Yeah, sure." So we started doing a Villain's Gospel, and it was me and this other like really like in tune hip white guy named Queso, like the cheese, and that went like really really good. But like when it started to end, like I wanted something different. I wanted genuine camaraderie from people who I knew.
Yeah.
So I reached out to T, and I said, "Come
that man is gold."
Me. Yeah, I said, "Come do this with me." And Zach had done a couple of episodes, but T's when that demographic really switched because his original name was Uncle Touchy. And it was the greatest fucking thing on the planet to us. And we got the biggest shit out of it, and we didn't give a damn. And he hated it because, like, it wasn't touchy like pedo. It was touchy like everything we said would just piss him off. He was real touchy about his feelings. and he just started going to town. He's like, fuck you all and all this other shit. And I'm like, oh, this is so great.
This is Mrs. Monstar saying hello.
I didn't know her name till after they were already married. Fun fact. She's so pissed at that. So that we started treating the wrestling, or like that we started treating the radio show like it was wrestling. Like everybody had a part to play.
You got heat, Johnny. Johnny's got heat, boys.
I know. But like with Zach there, like Zach and I ping off of each other. There's a reason why we say we are a PR's worst nightmare. It's not a clever title. We are rough ass individuals. And when you have somebody like T's gonna go against us every time.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just his role. But he does it in such a unique way. Like the man put icy hot on his balls because we got 100 likes. I'm like, what? It was nuts. Like he fucked a grapefruit on the air.
Can we say that?
Yeah, he fucked a grapefruit.
Jesus Christ.
And
he's
then went
definitely
around to all the cameras saying, hey, look, and started like going like really far. I was like, whoa. Yeah.
Zach hit me up last night and he was like, hey man, we're starting this new venture. I'd love to get some feedback on it because I've been doing this for a while now. And I told him within 30 seconds of watching it, I was like, first thing I said was, you got Dutch Mantel on your first show. That's awesome. And then about 20 seconds later, I'm like, yeah, this dude's a freaking wild card. But moving forward with the Not So Sweet Life, what is your guys's, I guess, what is your guys' content? Like what are you guys going to be talking about? What can we expect from the Not So Sweet Life podcast?
I don't know. I mean, yeah.
It's like your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, really. I mean, because it's like that. We all play our parts. Like Touchy's the wild card. Dad's the responsible one. He is the responsible one. And so Zach and I are just sort of like the back and forth, and we really don't have a direction. And it's because of that why we've gotten to do things like interview POD and go hang out within this moment and freaking New Year's Day and go to Fetish Con and do all this crazy, ridiculous shit. Because we are the fucking Seinfeld of radio. Like, we have no purpose.
I really got that feeling watching the last show. And guys, I strongly suggest, if you guys haven't seen the Not So Sweet Life podcast, make sure you go check it out. We'll post links in the description. But moving forward, I believe Zach said your guys' content was going to be coming to Twitch. So if you guys follow this Twitch name right here at Madhouse Monstar, you'll be able to keep up with everything that they have going on. But sitting back and watching it, I really felt like you and Zach were the play-by-play. Dad was the color commentator, and T was the streaking fan that hopped the guardrail and grabbed a microphone.
So fucking accurate. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. That's the most accurate shit on the planet.
So, you know, we're hitting that 1 hour mark, and I really don't even feel like we've had time to talk about anything. So we're definitely going to be doing this again.
Yeah.
Probably get you and the whole cast on here. I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Nope. Sure as fuck ain't.
But we're definitely going to be doing this again. Before we get out of here, Johnny, a few questions I like to ask. So what's one thing about you that your fans may not know, that if they're watching this, something about you that not a lot of people know that you would want your fans to know? I think this is the longest I've ever heard him not talking.
Yeah, because it's like, where do you go with that?
I mean, you're pretty much an open book.
Well, yeah. I mean, I love the wrestling business more than anything, but there's only one thing that I love more than wrestling, and that's teaching my daughter. Teaching my daughter the things that I took for granted that when I was growing up. So I like teaching. Or correction. Well, we will reverse that. I like educating because there's a big difference between being a teacher and being an educator.
Absolutely.
And so I like to educate my daughter on life in general. She loves the wrestling business already. So it's sort of like a both do as I say type thing that she just is along for the ride. I mean, I don't want to tell everybody that I can ballroom dance because that'd be weird.
For everybody watching, Wrestling Pops on our Twitch channel just posted a link to the first episode of the Not So Sweet Life. So if you're watching on Twitch, feel free to use this link to find it. If you're not watching on Twitch, I strongly encourage you switch to Twitch because we have some Twitch exclusive content, some stuff you won't be able to find anywhere else. So if you're watching on Twitch, thank you. If you're not watching on Twitch, also thank you. But I strongly encourage you follow us on Twitch at twitch.tv/HeelKevin, and you can find the link to the first episode of the Not So Sweet Life and kind of get an idea of why we've had so much fun talking about this. Johnny, before we get out of here, my final question for you before we wrap things up is, and I like to ask this to just about everybody because I get an array of different answers, and I feel like yours is going to come from a very sincere place, and it's going to be something that a lot of people need to hear. You've been involved in the wrestling business for about 13 years now. If you were able to go back in time 13 years from today and give yourself one piece of advice while you embark on your pro wrestling journey, what would that advice be? Something you know now that you wish you knew 13 years ago.
Less is more. Less is more, and shut the fuck up.
You know, I recently had on NWA Hall of Famer Iceberg on the show. Great wrestler, great talent, very intimidating person. And he said very much the same thing. He said that, you know, keep your mouth shut and you don't know everything. The second you think you know everything is your time to get out because you're going to get somebody hurt.
Yeah, it's true that you have to have that healthy fear. If you do not have that healthy fear, it's like getting behind the wheel of a motorcycle. People fear it because they have respect for it. People who don't, they ride recklessly. People who don't respect the wrestling business do reckless shit and get people really hurt.
I completely agree. We have one of our sponsors coming in, A-Rock Designs, a.k.a. Heel Wifey, a.k.a. my lovely wife, watching the show. But, you know, Johnny, I got one surprise for you. But before we get into that, let everybody know where they can find you, follow you, all of your social medias, even though you hate social media, where they can keep up with you and follow you and keep in touch with you and stuff like that.
You can follow me on Facebook at Johnny.Christ.14, which is down in the below section. You guys can also check out my clothing line, Truly Evil, at Facebook.com/Truly Evil, all one word. I don't use Twitter that much. I'm starting to become more active with it, but I don't know it off the top of my head. But just right there, you know, Ruddo the villain. I stay connected to people because as much as I despise social media, like an idle mind is the devil's playground, no pun intended.
You know, speaking of the devil's playground, I don't think you could have picked a better choice of words because throughout this interview, you know, you've kind of circled back to one person. You've kind of really hit on how much impact, you know, Zach has had on your life and your journey in pro wrestling. So I would really, really love to see what he has to say, not to take away from Johnny's story or anything like that. But ladies and gentlemen, joining us at this time, our special guest, Zach Monstar. And Zach, my question for you is, what's something that you want people to know about Johnny that hasn't been covered yet? You know, through your experience, through your time of knowing him, what are some things that you would want the people to know about Johnny that we haven't covered?
I don't think I have enough time to run down this list. Oh, let me just start off by saying he's unsafe. He's stiff. He deliberately tries to hurt people. No, dude. Johnny is one of the most interesting and unique individuals I have ever met in this entire business. And I think that's why we are brothers. because we feed off each other so well. And even though like we don't get along with a lot of the stuff, like I don't know if you've ever heard Johny outside of the wrestling ring when I'm working, but there's a lot of what the fuck, Zach, what are you doing, Zach, why?
So very much like the conversations we have at Denny's at 2 a.m.
Right. But man, Johny is one of those individuals who will go out there and he will do whatever he's asked to do. I've never heard him bitch about having to go out there and do the job or be a part of the business or do what was required for the business. And Johny has done some pretty stupid shit before. And it's not because of his own doing, it's because of the position that he was put in, you know? And he tries to just make the best of it. And that's the one thing that like that's not just like the one thing, but that's one of the things that I have to give credit to, man. I got my attitude by surrounding myself with individuals like Johny. You know,
I mean, I've said it a million times. You're the direct sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with, which is why I choose to surround myself with guys like Zach. Johny, we haven't had the chance to hang out as much as me and Zach have. I hope we do in the future because you seem like a solid fucking hang dude. But I'm a firm believer you are the direct sum of the 5 people you choose to surround yourself with.
That's some deep shit right there. If and by deep meaning, if people could actually take that in and really truly apply that, like, there's a reason why you don't see crackheads as Fortune 500 CEOs. It's
absolutely.
Because you want the company you keep.
I mean, Jordan Belfort might say different.
Shit happens. That's how it is.
Well, and that's the thing, man. Like, I've never seen Johny like falter or, you know what I mean, be too proud to admit that like he made a mistake. Like, Johnny's the first one to be like, yeah, you know what, I fucked up, but we're moving forward. Like, how do we fix it? You know. And I got that from him, and he's always been one of those hungry individuals that like have pushed me to be better. Whether it be like through critiquing or sarcasm or just general like, hey, this is great with what you're doing. And that's the one, like, that's one of the things that like Johny always pushes me. You know what I mean? Like, Kevin, you wonder where I get it from? It's from him. Because it's never enough. You know what I mean? And it'll never be enough. I could come at Johny with an idea that I've been working on for a week straight, and Johny will tell me flat out, okay, this is good, but how do you make it better? And I'm like, I have no idea. I just figured this out. And he's like, okay, well, think harder. You know what I mean? So I owe a lot of credit to like my ability to think outside of the box of what wrestling is, and just like character wise and development to Johny, man. So is there a bunch of shit that I can tell you? 110%. But you know, can I tell you how he made me eat that grapefruit that Touchy fucked?
Oh God. No way. No
Listen,
way.
Can I tell you how we super kicked a midget?
We did do that. That was great.
Can I tell you how we had somebody my size go into the studio one day who was talking a bunch of ish, and we had a chop off with them?
Super chop party.
Yeah, that was exactly what it was. Yeah, that we live broadcasts and us are bad ideas.
Can I tell you about the time that we ordered a mystery box off the dark internet, off the dark web, and we ended up eating a spider? Yeah, there's stories.
If I don't use the restroom, I'm gonna piss on this hotel floor.
Well, we're just about to wrap things up here, guys. I want to thank Johny for the time that he's given us. I want to thank Zach for jumping on here. We're going to wait for Johny to come back before we wrap things up, because I feel it's rude if I close the show without the star of the show being here. But Zach, while we're waiting on him, let me ask you this. How do you feel about all the things Johny had to say about you, and how high of a regard he holds you in?
Man, it's nothing that I didn't already know. Me and Johnny, like I said, like there's a reason why throughout 13 years we've been connected. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's because we have a massive mutual respect for one another. And when it comes down to it, like, man, that's my brother, and I love him to death, and I will go to war for him, with him, and I try to make it so it's never against him, you know.
Mhm.
But all in all, like,
I feel so better.
well, now that we're done talking shit about him,
It happens.
no, man, I appreciate all the kind words, even though, you know, halfway through I decided that I hated it here. All right, let's
I
not
mean,
let's not
you can't hate it here while I still have this in my possession, Zach.
I love the fact that when people talk about the ability to evolve in wrestling, like Zach is one of the first people that I always think of. Him, like Eddie Torres, as much as I dislike some of his personal rants, like these are people who say you're not defined by how you come in. It doesn't matter how you come in. It only matters how you finish. And if you're happy with that, then that's what matters the most.
Absolutely.
With that being said, guys, this has been this episode of the War Room. We've gone over a little bit, but whenever I get guys like this on here, I mean, we could go for 3-4 hours. I definitely believe that we need to get the entire cast of the Not So Sweet Life on here
Yeah, right.
and try our luck with that. But it is going to have to wait because by popular demand, returning next week to the War Room, we will be doing Wrestling Review Society Jeopardy, an entire trivia game of all wrestling knowledge. If you want to be a participant on Wrestling Review Society Jeopardy and see just how much you know about wrestling, or in some cases, how much you don't know about wrestling, message me, hit me up, whether it be on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, however you get a hold of me, let me know. I'll pick 3 people at random. I'll get together with some guys like Johnny, Zach, and some other friends. We'll come up with an entire list of questions. We will crown a new Wrestling Review Society Jeopardy champion. That will go down next week live in the War Room. It's going to be a great time. It always is. I always learn new things. The contestants learn new things. And we just have a great time. So that will be live in the War Room next week. Wrestling Review Society Jeopardy. With that being said, from myself, from Zach, from Johnny, from the entire cast of the Not So Sweet Life, make sure you guys check it out. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for checking out their first episode. And make sure you go follow Madhouse Monstar on Twitch so you can stay up to date with all of their new podcasts and where they're going to drop at. I'm sure there's going to be other platforms, and I'm sure they'll address that on the show. But if you don't know anywhere else to follow it yet, make sure you go to Madhouse Monstar on Twitch and follow it there. That's where you can get all of your up-to-date information on the Not So Sweet Life podcast. Thank you for watching the War Room. Thank you to all of our amazing sponsors at the Coldest Water, First Warrior, A-Rock Designs, and storefrontier.com/Wrestling Review Society for providing all of our great, amazing merch. Make sure you get yours today, like the Heel Kevin Army shirt. And with that being said, guys, we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Johnny, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on here. I can't wait to do it again. Zach, thanks for popping on, man. If I could have just a moment of your guys' time when the live feed ends, I'd really appreciate it. And with that being said, guys, we'll see you next week.